Hello, it's me, Noah Sussman, back with part 2 of this Gravity Sketch Eyeware video. As you can see, we've got the lines pretty far along. Definitely there's some details, which I'm going to finish up in this video. So this is about 25 minutes, 26 minutes of me finishing up these lines, tuning everything, and then pulling the first one or two surfaces over the main parts of the glasses. In fact, I start the surfaces in the same spot that I started the line drawing, just because I'm kind of excited to see those surfaces. I'll pop back in during the video to speak about a few of the interesting points, like matching surfaces, creating surface continuity in a gravity sketch model, and also some global proportion changes. So I actually tune sort of the overall shape of the glasses. I've been working on the details for a couple hours, and I do need to then go back, have a look at them on ahead, tune them. But I talk about that later in the video, so cue the music, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So we've reached the point now where I'm checking the overall proportions, as I mentioned before. I've been spending a lot of time focused on details, and you can see the glasses have sort of drifted off the head a bit. The lenses seem to be tipped out a bit like buck teeth. People have a pretty strong sense of proportion. Even non-designers or people who have no experience building eyewear, or anything for that matter that goes on the human body, or that the human body has to fit into. People can sort of sense when proportions are off, if eyewear is too wide, if lenses are too small, etc., etc. So I've done a lot of work on the lines and the details, so now I'm just rechecking my proportions on the head to make sure that my gut feeling says, yeah, these look like they're the right shape, the right size. And then I jump right back in and continue adding some detail. So here comes the exciting part. I'm actually going to start pulling surfaces over this line drawing. We spent a couple of hours getting the forms in, roughing out the proportions. I've even indicated some lens curvature. I'm not actually going to try and build lenses in Gravity Sketch. The geometry is pretty perfect in lenses. It's kind of the most critical part of eyewear. Distance to the eyes, curvature, etc. That's something I'll build in a more precise model making software. Once I can do Boolean operations and cut stuff out of other surfaces, when I can do that in Gravity Sketch, then I'll put lenses in. But here I am setting up my surface tension. That's the tool you see on the left, surface color. And then I realized this environment looks a little bit too sterile to start pulling surfaces. And frankly, I'm excited to put this main surface on. So what I do, and this is one of the things about Gravity Sketch that I really like, is I'm going to go ahead and create an environment that is more of an illustration. I pull out my environment tool here, and I'm actually picking a background color that I sort of had in my head, and a surface color that I had in my head when I did the ballpoint pen sketch. So my key sketch, the emotion from my key sketch, is something I can quite literally bring over into Gravity Sketch, and that's just an invaluable tool. I find 3D modeling can become very clinical and very cold, and the whole point is to create an emotional product, an emotional design. So I've created a blue background, which I sort of had in my head, like I said, when I did the key sketch, and I jump right in here and start roughing in my first surface. And once again, you'll see the first surface that I'm building is based on the first lines that I drew, this first eyebrow shape. It's because I'm excited to see the surface. I'm excited to see the highlights here and how they add character to the wearer's face and a little bit of drama. And once again, you have to assume some background in 3D modeling to understand what I'm doing with the points. I'm not just placing these points randomly. I'm trying to create a flow of control points, sort of the minimum number of control points necessary to create the surfaces. That also determines sometimes when I'll just build another surface, because I don't want to bunch control points up in corners or over the surface. That will create funky surfaces that give ripply highlights and bad reflections. So I've laid that surface in, and now I turn the control points on, and I can see that my control points are not in clean rows or in equal steps from one another. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just sort of trying to do some good model making discipline. It's something that I learned from Alias, building surfaces in Alias. So you can see that's very similar to pulling the lines. You rough something in, and then you spend time tuning it up. So here's an interesting point. I'm bringing two surfaces together, and in a more hardcore surfacing model making application, this point where these surfaces are essentially supposed to flow together. In other words, if a highlight or a reflection went across this junction, these two surfaces, you wouldn't notice it. In Gravity Sketch, I don't have those tools yet to snap surface continuity. They do have some really cool new zebra stripe shaders that will show you how light is going to flow along the surfaces, but you can see I'm just doing it manually here. Maybe there's a workaround for this that I don't know yet. Perhaps I could snap those control points to one another, and that might help me connect two surfaces like this. But for now, you'll see that that's sort of a challenge. Here I am extending that surface out, again using one of the new features where I can grab an entire row of control points. Nice new feature. You can do U direction row. I don't know what that U stands for, but and then you can do V direction row. So you can do rows across or rows along the surface. So we've reached the end of part 2. You can see we've started pulling surfaces onto our line drawing, and that's what I will continue with in part 3, which I'll upload in a couple of days here. Hope you have enjoyed it this far, and once again, thanks a lot for watching.